The year 1973 marked a turning point for the American automotive industry. The oil crisis erupted, EPA emission standards tightened, and with that, the nightmare of performance strangulation began to spread. But just before muscle cars were shackled by regulations and fuel shortages, America managed to unleash a lineup of machines that were fast, powerful, and defiant, roaring one last time before the silence. It was a time when V8s were still allowed to scream unchecked, when speed still mattered more than miles per gallon. And in today's list, we're diving into the 12 fastest American cars of 1973, the final year before everything changed. Which one do you think will top the list? Corvette, Trans Am, or maybe an underdog you'd never expect? Let's find out right now. 1973 AMC Javelin AMX 401. In the muscle car world of 1973, one name was constantly underrated: the AMC Javelin AMX 401. Not from the big three, Ford, GM, or Chrysler, the Javelin was American Motors' bold final bet in the horsepower race. The AMX version came with a 401 cubic inch V8, producing around 255 SAE net horsepower, a modest number on paper. But don't be fooled. In reality, this car could hit 125 to 127 miles per hour, rivaling the Camaro Z28 and Mustang Mach-1 of the same era. Its secret? Excellent aerodynamics and a solid chassis, derived from AMC's past experience in Trans Am racing. This was one of the few 1973 muscle cars that still felt wild and untamed, rather than neutered by the EPA. Sadly, AMC didn't have the budget for mass marketing, so the Javelin AMX 401 remained an unsung hero. Today, it's a prized collector's item, not just rare, but a symbol of a small automaker's last stand in a brutal era. 1973 Dodge Dart Sport 340. It wasn't a top-tier model, nor did it carry the prestige of the Charger or Challenger, yet the Dart Sport 340 boasted one of the most impressive power-to-weight ratios in Mopar's entire 1973 lineup. Equipped with a 340 cubic inch V8, producing around 240 SAE net horsepower, and weighing just under 3,200 pounds, the Dart could reach a top speed of approximately 127 miles per hour, a remarkable figure for such a configuration. What made the Dart 340 special wasn't raw horsepower, but rather how efficiently it used every bit of it. Simple suspension, a 4-speed manual transmission, and that deep, growling exhaust all came together to create a driving experience that was raw, honest, and genuinely exciting. The Dart 340 became a secret weapon at local drag strips, where lightness and agility often triumphed over much heavier rivals with 455 cubic inch engines. Today, the Dart Sport 340 is still regarded as a true sleeper, understated in appearance, but always ready to deliver a surprise. 1973 Dodge Challenger 440 Magnum. This version was powered by a 440 cubic inch big block V8, making around 280 SAE net horsepower and over 480 pound-feet of torque, enough to roast the rear tires with a single stomp on the pedal. The legendary Torque Flight 727 automatic transmission ensured smooth delivery, while the E-body chassis kept things composed at high speeds. The Challenger 440 Magnum could realistically hit 130 to 132 miles per hour, despite its hefty size. But what truly set it apart wasn't just the engine, it was the attitude. The Challenger didn't try to please everyone. It just roared, ran straight, and left the scent of burning rubber in its wake. Today, when people mention the Challenger name, they often think of modern Hellcats and SRTs. But for true Mopar lovers, the 440 Magnum defines raw, untamed American muscle. If you've ever heard its exhaust echo through a parking lot, you already know why. 1973 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. This version wasn't as wild as the legendary 69, but instead of backing down, in the face of emissions and safety regulations, the Z28 chose to move forward with calm determination. Beneath the hood was a 350 cubic inch V8, producing around 245 SAE net horsepower. Not an overwhelming figure, but finely tuned for smooth, precise performance. With a top speed of around 130 to 132 miles per hour, paired with independent front suspension and sharp steering response, the Z28 wasn't just a straight-line sprinter. It handled corners with confidence. The year 1973 also brought a notable design change: a large aluminum bumper with rubber tips, an engineering solution that met new safety requirements without ruining the car's sporty silhouette. This Z28 didn't need to scream for attention. It roared only when it truly had to. It was built for those who understand that a machine with restraint can sometimes be more dangerous than one that flaunts its power. 1973 Pontiac GTO 455. If you ever loved a GTO, then you'll understand why 1973 was a bittersweet year. The Pontiac GTO 455 no longer carried the wild bad boy spirit of its late 60s heyday, but beneath its quieter exterior still beat a very large heart. Under the hood was a 455 cubic inch V8, making around 250 SAE net horsepower and over 370 pound-feet of torque. Not record-breaking, but still enough to push the car to a top speed of around 130 to 132 miles per hour. The suspension had been softened for broader market appeal, but the 4-speed manual remained an option, giving purists a chance to feel each rev like the old days. 1973 also marked the first time the GTO shared its platform with the Le Mans, a move that many loyal fans saw as betrayal. But if you looked past the skin, the GTO still held its core, a true muscle car with a V8 heart. 1973 Oldsmobile 442 W30. As one of the most formidable versions of the Oldsmobile 442, the W30 managed to retain its muscle car spirit, even as that era was beginning to fade. Powered by a 455 cubic inch V8, it delivered around 270 SAE net horsepower and over 370 pound-feet of torque. Paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a 3.42 rear axle ratio, the 442 W30 could reach a top speed of 134 to 135 miles per hour, outpacing many heavyweight big block rivals of its time. But the W30 package wasn't just about raw numbers. It included a performance camshaft, a Rochester 4-barrel carburetor, a cold air induction system, and a series of mechanical refinements, all working together to produce sharp throttle response, strong acceleration, and confident control. Design-wise, the 1973 442 looked quieter, more refined. Gone were the bulging, muscular lines of the 1970 model, but in their place was something more subtle, more dangerous in its own way: a silent assassin. Today, the 1973 W30 is rarely mentioned in conversations about great muscle cars, but for those who've driven one, it's like discovering a buried gem, unassuming on the outside, but shockingly valuable once unearthed. 1973. Buick GS Stage 1455. At first glance, you might think this car was built for middle-aged gentlemen who preferred comfort. But beneath that classy, unassuming exterior lies a machine ready to embarrass many muscle car heroes. It featured a 455 cubic inch V8, but the Stage 1 package pushed things further. A hotter cam, higher compression, and a performance-tuned carburetor. The result? Around 270 SAE net horsepower and up to 390 pound-feet of torque, enough to launch this nearly 2-ton coupe to 130 to 132 miles per hour. What's remarkable is how quietly it does it. True to Buick's philosophy, this car delivers its power smoothly, without theatrics. Its suspension strikes a balance between performance and comfort, giving the driver both speed and composure. The GS Stage 1 doesn't shout, it doesn't pose, but the moment you tap the throttle, it makes one thing clear. Silence is not weakness. 1973. Pontiac Firebird Trans Am SD455. While most muscle cars were backing down in 1973 due to emissions and fuel concerns, Pontiac was quietly preparing one final counterattack. That car was the Trans Am SD455, a machine many consider the last dinosaur of the muscle car era. SD stands for Super Duty, a 455 engine nearly re-engineered from the ground up. This wasn't just an upgraded block. The SD455 featured a reinforced casting, special camshaft, high-compression pistons, forged crankshaft, and a high-performance oil cooling system. It was officially rated at around 290 SAE net horsepower, though many experts believe it made closer to 320 to 330 horsepower, far beyond most of its 1973 rivals. It could reach a top speed of about 135 miles per hour, and just a few seconds behind the wheel told you this wasn't your average Trans Am. In 1973, only around 250 SD455s were produced, making it a true collector's gem. 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray L82. The Corvette marked the beginning of a shift from raw street racer to something closer to a modern-day sports gentleman. With a urethane front bumper, replacing chrome, smoother body lines, and a more refined shape. But don't let the looks fool you. The L82 variant was made for those who still craved real speed. It came with a 350 cubic inch V8, producing around 250 SAE net horsepower, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. This setup pushed the Corvette to a top speed of about 137 miles per hour, faster than many big block muscle cars of the time. Thanks to its lighter weight, balanced chassis, and fully independent suspension, the L82 handled corners with agility and precision, a sharp contrast to its heavier rivals. Though 1973 was a transitional year for the Corvette, the L82 proved that performance didn't need to shout to be heard. 1973, the Damaso Pantera, a car with Italian design and an American heart, one that stirred up the US performance scene in the early 1970s. The 1973 Pantera stayed true to its daring formula, a European-style unibody chassis, sharp-edged bodywork by Ghia, and a Ford 351 Cleveland 5.8, a 5.8-liter powerhouse producing around 266 SAE net horsepower and over 300 pound-feet of torque. Thanks to its lightweight and rear-wheel drive layout, the Pantera could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds and reach a top speed of around 150 miles per hour, an impressive figure for a mass-produced car in 1973. What made the Pantera truly special was its unique combination of American reliability and Italian precision handling, a driving experience few other cars of the time could offer. Although officially distributed by Ford in the US, the Pantera always looked and felt different. Not quite a muscle car, not exactly a European exotic, it was an outsider with the speed of a ruler. Owning a Pantera felt like having a banned toy, strange, seductive, and guaranteed to turn heads wherever it went. 1973 Chevrolet Corvette LS445. The LS4 was the most powerful Corvette option still available at the time, featuring a 454 cubic inch V8 rated at around 275 SAE net horsepower and over 390 pound-feet of torque. While the rating was toned down due to new regulations, its real-world performance was undeniable, with top speeds reaching 138 to 140 miles per hour. Compared to the nimble L82, the LS4 offered a different kind of thrill. Not finesse, but sheer tidal force power. A 4-speed manual, the sturdy C3 chassis, and wide rear tires made wrangling this beast a battle between logic and instinct. The 1973 Corvette had softened lines and a more modern silhouette, but don't be fooled, this car could make you break a sweat with a single stomp on the pedal. Driving the LS4 wasn't like piloting a car. It was more like riding a storm, gripping the wheel, and seeing how long you could stay in control. 1973 Buick Century GS Stage 455. This was an exceptionally rare version, equipped with a 4-speed manual transmission, a 455 cubic inch V8 featuring high compression, a performance camshaft, and a special high-flow carburetor. While officially rated at 270 SAE net horsepower, period experts and road tests suggest that the true output was closer to 370 horsepower. With over 390 pound-feet of torque, balanced weight, and an optimized drivetrain, this car could reach a top speed of around 139 to 140 miles per hour. An astonishing figure for 1973, especially when most performance cars were being dialed back due to emission standards and the fuel crisis. Buick didn't launch any flashy ad campaigns for this car. No official drag racing program, no posters on dealership walls. Only true gearheads knew if you spotted a Century GS Stage 455 with a manual shifter, your best move was to back off. And so, we've just journeyed through the 12 fastest American cars of 1973, machines that didn't just mark the end of the muscle car era, but stood as the last great expression of American speed, heart, and defiance. These cars were final statements, bold, proud, and unapologetic, before performance was strangled by regulations and the oil crisis. Some looked like aging warriors, still standing tall. Others glided through the streets like silent phantoms. But all of them shared one truth: they never surrendered. If you've ever sat behind the wheel of one of these icons, then you know it's not just about speed. It's about emotion, memory, legacy. So tell us, which one stirred something in you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story. And if you found this journey worth taking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Because together, we'll keep uncovering more legends, one machine at a time.